Good evening, good evening. Thank you so much for giving me your one more Saturday. I hope you're doing well. And if you can hear me, if you're able to see me, just to check that the streaming is right, just on the comment box, if you any one of you can just type yes, that will be super helpful. My name is Ketan Krishna. I'm an HR practitioner, coach, speaker, and welcome to the Million Dollar Employee Talk Show. This is the third episode for this year, and I'm so excited. I'm glad to present and talk about something which is very interesting. But before I get there, let me give you a context of what am I doing and why am I doing. In my experience, in my journey in the corporate, one thing that I've realized is, organizations talk about leadership, high potential, great managers. But what I believe is a very important element that got left or is getting left is the focus on making employees extraordinary. Now, this is what gave to this concept of million dollar employee. I decided to give it a shape, I decided to give it a form. I started reading about it, learning about it. I started observing people that I've worked, and I looked at my career, my work ex, to realize and understand what are the things that has worked for me and for a lot of people. And I identified six extremely critical elements. If every single of you are able to work on that, I can promise that you are going to create significant value for yourself. And that's what I call as a million dollar employee. It is about you becoming so valuable, so extraordinary, so incredible that nobody would want to trade you even for $1 million in cash. With that, I am going to invite on stage a very special guest today, somebody that I've worked with, had the pleasure to work with. And he will talk about something around the concept of learnability and books as a form of learnability. So please join me as I invite on stage a very close friend, Sumit Rajpal. Sumit, hi, how are you?
Very good, Ketan. Good evening, everyone.
Good, good, good. You're looking way younger than when I left you in that form. So I'm sure something you have done different to yourself, right?
Yeah, I won't comment much on that. I think it's very much the same, but yes, some amount of working has been there, learning from where we left last time, Ketan. I think it was very uh, exciting times that we had spent on those coaching sessions that we had. I think that helped me a lot. But
Thank you. Thank you. Could you move a little bit right because I think the frame is not capturing you well. A little bit right. Sorry, right, which means left. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. And my eyes are still on the book that I've. One of the reasons I was so happy doing calls with you because every time I would see a new book on the bookshelf and you would graciously tell me what new book you have bought. And we'll talk about that later. But for everybody here, Sumit and I have worked together at IDFC Bank. That's where we spent about 2.5 years together. There's something that clicked between us, something that was a shared passion. We used to talk a lot about life, health, a lot of things apart from work. And Sumit now is working with one of the major banks, and I know he's on the way to create something extraordinary for himself, which is not the focus of this conversation. But I've always found him to be very curious and inquisitive about a lot of things. And I know his personal journey from the background he came in, how what challenges and difficulties life tried to throw at him, and every time how he was able to navigate, find a positive reference, and do something well for himself. So, Sumit, thank you again for your time and welcome again to the MDE Talk Show.
pleasure is on mine, Ketan. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And today we'll talk more about books, and as I said, one of the major competencies that I believe will help each one of you become a million-dollar employee is learnability, and books is a very very important form. I'll give you a quick context. Some of you may know it, but this was around 2016, 15, 16. I was working with a startup. We were doing well. We were putting everything what it required for us to do well, get those additional funding and grow well. But one fine day, I did not have a job because the company could not scale further. I had to move out. And with 10 years of experience, coming from a good B school, working with some good brand, and actually have done some incredible work with my team, I thought, world is going to hire me. It's going to come down to my foot, and I'll have choices to make about where do I want to work in. It took me 5 months to get a break. Yes, it was a very, very difficult 5 months then, but those 5 months, and I'm glad that happened. It made me relook at my life from a very different lens, because what I expected and what was happening, there was a huge gap. One very important thing that I realized was I'd done incredible work professionally, right? Functionally, I knew a lot of stuff, but I had not grown as a person in the first 10 years of my career. I had invested zero time, zero money, zero effort in learning and becoming better. I had absolutely not done it. I had finished, in fact, one book in 10 years, and this book was given to me at the start of my career with by one of the senior leaders. And she said, "This is the book you need to read." And I read it over a period of 10 years because I thought, I know it all. Work will teach me everything. I don't need to learn anything. I've studied till postgraduate. This is where the learning has to stop. But I was wrong, absolutely wrong. One habit that I was able to start, I would not say build, during that time was reading. And I remember 2016 to 19, I read about 20 books. 2020 was about 31. 2021, I did 37. While I was chasing 60, I was able to do 37. And I continue to focus on my reading, and now it's becomes a part of my life. So the first thing that I do when I get up is read for 30 minutes. If I don't do it, I now feel that something in my life is missing. And when I was having this conversation with Sumit, he told me something which was which was an inspirational story about how his relationship and journey with books started. So Sumit, tell me what happened. How did you start? I understand you started late, and how has been that journey for you? A quick, you know, context of what and how.
Sure. So, Ketan, just after school, college, working, I think books were never part of my journey ever. So, it was somewhere in 2007, 8. I remember one of a person who I've worked with, he became an author. And the title was very interesting. It was something related to banking, and coming from that fraternity, it clicked. It was a trigger. I picked up the book generally. So the book was If God Was a Banker by Ravi Subramaniam. So so that book uh, I picked up, I started reading, and by the time I realized in a week's time, I was done with the book. So, very interesting. It was a fiction, but yes, a habit of, I'll not use the word habit. It was the first book, if I can say, that I picked up and started reading. So that's how the journey started. And slowly, steadily, I remember that after reading that book, I picked up another, maybe Chetan Bhagat's book. That's something that I picked up. And then that's how one odd book is how I started. So I'll not say the habit got built up, but yes, the reading got started.
Yeah, I had not read that book, but I've met Mr. Subramaniam once, and yeah, I was impressed. I think he was writing his seventh. He has written five, six after that, if I
No,
understand.
no, he has written somewhere around 13, 14. So I have read all of those.
Okay, when I met him, I think he was writing his eighth,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, that's in fact, and it's a very important point. See, I think he's one of the most well-read, respected people in the industry, and see, he apart from managing such important role, he reads, he writes, and he shares with the world, right? So, and he's been doing it for ages. So is there a correlation between, a theory that says that because you get successful you read, or you should read to get successful? I think I've started to believe in the second side, that you need to learn reading books is one of the most amazing forms to do it. And yeah, he's one of the amazing examples to spoke about. And I will definitely grab a copy of this book. It's been on my mind for quite some time, but a lot of people in the banking industry have spoken to me about this particular book. But thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
And what are you reading right now, Sumit? And I get intrigued with, for the backdrop every time I see that a lot. I hope there are no, uh, you just haven't put the covers, right? They're all real books.
No, no, I'll so let me answer the first question first. So I'm reading Atomic Habits. So that's the latest one that I picked up. A very interesting book. So if somebody has an opportunity to pick up, that's an amazing book to build habits. And
Yeah.
it gives a very step-by-step procedure of how small things, small initiatives, small actions can uh, become habits, and how good hacks around building around that. So that's the book that I'm reading right now. And before that, I just finished a book, an old book. It is It's Not Luck by L. Goldratt. So very interesting
Well,
book again.
sorry, sorry. What is the name of the book?
It's Not Luck.
It's Not Luck.
Yeah.
Okay. See, I'm getting
So
more and more
it's a
again.
sequel to his first one, that is The Goal. It's more on operational efficiencies, and a very interesting book. Again, if somebody manages a large team, it can relate to banking, it can relate to manufacturing, it can relate to anybody, where you are working in processes, and how processes can be simplified. So I think it was also part of a curriculum in IAMS. That's what I was told. But and people who have been in that space have read that. But I just happened to pick that book, The Goal, and very interesting. It helped. So we'll talk about that. It's an interesting story also. Yeah,
So why don't we go to the interesting part now? I think you did mention about that you was facing a particular problem at your workplace in terms of how to move the team and the output to a next level. Is this a book that helped you come out of it where you were able to? Oh, why? Let's talk
absolutely.
about that right away.
So it happened that so this was a situation at a workplace. I'll not talk much about the shop here, but still, it was a situation where we have a large team. The people were working very hard, but still the efficiency levels and the productivity was not coming to the desired levels. So it just happened that I was reading this book also during that time when the situation was playing out. And while I was reading, and the book was completely about this character called Alex saving his plant, which was about to get closed in 3 months' time if he doesn't get into that efficiency and productivity and profitability. So that was his goal. So it just triggered that I was reading, and I was trying to replicate, and while reading, I was connecting the situation. So it was an
Hmm.
interesting time, because every time I was reading, I was placing that thought that how can this be used in my shop, and some of those inputs, very interesting inputs that I learned from that book, I applied. And me, my team, we all were talking about, I was talking about the book and the ideas that the book was talking about. And we all then decided that okay, let's try and implement some of these things around the shop that we're talking about. And let me tell you that in 3 months time, not only we enhance the efficiency and the productivity multifold, we also the team members who were stretching themselves to from day early morning till late in the evening, their their working got a little more simpler, and they were able to apart from being productive, they were able to manage their time and life work balance a little better. So yes, it helped. That was the interesting part of the book, The Goal.
And I'm sure a consultant would have charged a bomb for a correction like this. But and
Yes.
that's one of the reasons I personally love book, because there's so much of knowledge and information available there. And trust me, the cost should not be even taught. I think it's just a notional cost to pay for something which is so valuable as it comes across. I'm so happy to hear that you were able to implement, but I'm sure it wouldn't have been an easy journey as it sounds. So reading, putting it into context, and then solving and seeing how it works, it would have taken a lot. But absolutely, that sound. I don't think so I've read that book, but I'm gonna catch up with that book also. Thank you for helping me, and I added that to my list. And I have okay, Manisha. Thank you so much. I just saw the message. Yes, thank you for telling that you can hear us, and thank you for your time. It's your time that is very very important. So more than you thanking us, thank you for joining in, and good to see you here. So Manisha and I worked together some time back. So glad to see you, Manisha. All right, Sumit. So you said that you started in 2007 and 2008. Give me a indication or a graph of how this has got built up over time. Did you start very very large and then it reduced? How did it go? Just 2018 to here. How many you would have read, and how is that evolving?
Okay. So uh, I've not read all of those. So there is
You need to
there's
first
some.
prove that that's not a virtual background. You need to prove us that's not a virtual background.
Oh, sure, sure, sure. So which one do you want to? So I spoke about this book to you a while back,
Ah, okay.
right? And
LHS is equal to RHS, so hence proved. I'm good. Thank you.
this is what I'm reading right now.
Ah, yeah. I finished it last year, and it'll be good to talk about it because we're talking about how to build habits. So super
Yeah.
awesome.
So I was telling you about the books that how I started, and so there was this phase around 2011-12. That was a time I was shuttling between Delhi, Bombay, and my job required me to travel and stay in Bombay for a couple of weeks or 3 weeks for work, and that carried on almost for a year and a half, 2 years. So that's how the shuttling role was. Uh, and during that time, weekends was something that I was at the guest house where I used to stay, and there is how much TV and how much games can you play on your phone. So that was the time I picked up a few books, and That's where I during weekends started my stretch on reading. So my
Hmm.
Saturdays and Sundays went on reading more and watching TV and playing games a little less. That was the shift, but so there were interesting books that I read during those days. I read Robin Sharma, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, The Secret, Ravi Subramaniam's rest of the books that were coming in, and Amish. And then I read the Shiva trilogy. So all some methodological fiction and some management, but most of the thing was fiction for a very very long time. So it was 2 to 3 books is how I used to read in a year. So till 2018-19, when I would have read some 7 8 books in the year. Not as many as you would have read, but 1920 was somewhere around. I read somewhere around 13 books. 2021, that was last year. I read around 16 books. This year, my plan is to have 20.
Yeah,
So in
and
totality, I would have read some 55 60 books in this period.
very interesting. In fact, when you speak about Robin Sharma, I was going through his the Hero's Manifesto recently that is published, and something very interesting about books that he says, and I actually went and tried something what he said there. So what he says is, pick a few books that you will repeat reading every year. His point of view is, and listen to this. This has so much of meaning. It struck a chord with me. He said, and if you're rereading it, And if you're not finding a new perspective from the same book, is a sign that you are not growing. Now that hit me very, very hard. It's very, very meaningful that one of the ways to test that if you are growing is read the same book again.
Yes.
And if you're not seeing or forming a new perspective every time that you read it, you're not growing as a person. And it was like super amazing. I picked up this book called Start With Why. That's a book which I restarted my reading habit in 2015. I read it. That was the second book that I read this year. And not to prove him right or wrong, but yes, I was able to find newer answers and newer perspectives and see a different meaning altogether in the book. This was the first time I reread a book. I thought, when I started, for me, it was like a goal. I need to finish this number, this number, this number. But I'm also recalibrating it, saying that, the goal is to acquire knowledge, feel good, make it as a habit rather than only a number. But yeah, of course, with practice, the speed is bettering, the ability to read and comprehend is improving. So, but I just thought of leaving
I
this
agree.
with.
No, I agree with you, Ketan. And though I would have said that I have read these 55, 60, some of the books. So there was this book called Execution by Ramcharan. I've read at least twice. There was another book, The Goal, which I was talking about. First, I read somewhere around 2009, 10, I remember. But uh, there was no application that came in, but I reread it last year. So I read it again, and it helped me in my application of those learnings. So I have read some of the books at least twice. Not that I didn't understand it last time. It is only the point that you were making that it was something new that came out during the rereading that happened. So yes, that's very important. That what you take out from the book is very important, and maybe the second time, maybe the third time. And I'm sure the book that I'm talking about, the Execution, I've read it twice. It's a little heavy one, but I will read it the third time because there may be situations that may be coming in that where I need to apply those. So completely agree with you there.
Yeah, and you said something very interesting here, saying that we may come across a situation which the book immediately is talking about and can solve for it. I don't know if it is, and this is the question to people who are listening also, into you, Sumit, but it happens with me a lot. If I'm in a need to find something, I've been struggling with something, and then many times that I just find the answer in the book. It's almost like it's been waiting for me to land there and say, okay, this is what it means, this is how it is done, this is what I'm going through, and this is how I need to come over that. I don't know if any of you in the audience have experienced that, if you've read. But Sumit, what has been your experience here? It's kind of kind of scares me out, saying that okay, is it really happening? But a lot of time that happens with me.
No, I missed that, Ketan.
The situation where there's something troubling you, and suddenly the first page or the second page that you open
Yes.
of a book, you're like, okay, this is what I was needing, and this is
This is
the
so.
answer.
So it, as I was telling you, there are some subconscious ability for you to when you're applying your own thoughts, and when you start reading something, it unlocks those subconscious thoughts all of a sudden, and you realize that, oh, this is exactly what I was thinking. And at times the book give you that validation also. So, let me put it in this perspective, Ketan, that everybody goes through a situation where he or she needs a mentor or a suggestion, and there are sometimes inhibitions about whether I should ask, I should not ask. What I have realized over a period of time is that the books are your personal coaches. And in today's scenario, if you are in a situation, you can actually go to a search engine and find, okay, if this is the situation that I'm troubling, I am in this situation, this is the point that is troubling me, this is the area that I need to come out of. there are suggestions that come out and you can pick up one of those books. So there was one challenge I remember, way back when, there was this situation I was in, and I picked up this book, The Secret, and it was the time when, it was 2008 9. There was a time where I was not in a great shape in my career side, and uh, I was giving my best, but still, what happens is that when you are doing your best, but results are not coming, you get into that negative state of mind. You get into that approach, which is blame game and things around that. So, so that is the time when books like these, when you read, it helps you get a perspective. You change your thought process, and you are able to apply that. Not that you can change it overnight, but just to talk about The Secret, it talks about a behavior is changed because of your thoughts. Behaviors are because of your thoughts. So how do you work on your thoughts so that you start believing, you stay positive, and slowly steadily your behavior gets into change. It's all about application. At times we do read, but how do we apply those reading is also important.
Hmm. Guys, this is gold mine. I can tell you what Sumit is sharing. Sumit, I don't know how much of detailing can you do, but could you talk about what specifics changed, or do you remember a moment, when you said that you were going through a difficult time, you're putting in results, but inputs, but results were not happening, and you were in a negative trap, if I would say, right? And what I understand, you're saying a book like A Secret, or the books that you read, it helped you move out of that. Now, are there, can you get into more specific on some incident that you revered, or anything that you were doing pretty often, and how you read and how your thought changed and how your behavior changed? Anything in particular that you are comfortable sharing with the audience here?
Sure. I'll talk about that phase when I was reading this book. Again, Secret is something that I read twice. I read Rhonda Byrne's the other book, The Magic. I read it twice. Again, these were the first few books that I had started reading. But what changed? And again, Robin Sharma's book that I was talking about. So there were some things that you I picked up, and I remember that every time you get into a negative zone or a negative thought process, how this book helped. There was this metaphor in Robin Sharma's book about white horses and black horses, and it all it spoke about is whenever you're in a zone where you are negative and when you are not in that frame of mind of thinking positively, just close your eyes and imagine those white and black horses. White horses are your positive horses, positive thoughts, and black horses are your negative thoughts. So close your eyes and just imagine more of your white horses. So in a matter of time, you will realize that you are in that negative thought process zone, and you need to come out of it. So that's how the behavior change in me happened, and it was very helpful, let me tell you. Otherwise negativity and things around that doesn't take you anywhere. If you want to grow, if you want to do something better in your life, you need to stay positive. And when you stay positive, I think you are solution oriented, you are not reactive, you are responding. So it helps in your overall behavior, as well as your entire orientation changes in your way of working.
And if I may ask now, it's a hypothetical question, but before that, Manik Nandan is asking, please share the book name again. You said it is The Goal, right, Sumit?
The goal.
Okay, I'm just gonna
Well, goal,
revise
right?
The Goal. Okay, fantastic. Uh, and as I said, it could be it would sound like a theoretical question, but if that shift wouldn't have happened, at that stage of your career, and if I understand, you're talking about the building phase, the place where you're probably transitioning between an IC to a manager. Is that a phase that you're talking about?
It was a little later. I was already a manager. So,
Okay, so manager to further growth, right? So
yes.
if this change wouldn't have happened, what do you think, or where probably you think you would have landed, or how did this change help you do well as an employee? As I said, I'm not talking about leadership here, I'm not talking about manager here. I'm talking about how to become a valuable employee. We are end of the day or start of the day first an employee, then any other role or designation
Correct.
comes in. So what did it do to you?
So, let me answer that in two parts, Ketan. One is what would have happened if I started maybe a decade earlier? And part two is what did I not started my habit of reading and change my thought processes and behavior at that point in time. So, answering the second part first, I know for sure that that negativity, that blame game, that reactive nature would not have allowed me to work on myself. It would have all I would have always blamed somebody else for things not happening, and I would not have taken the initiative of adding value to myself or invest in myself in that learning curve. So when, as I said, when your behavior is positive, when you're thinking positive, you start a solution oriented approach for yourself. And that was the time I started adding value to myself in those learnings, and it helped me in my professional career and personal also. Let me tell you that it is just growth is just not professional, it is personal. How you build relationship, not only with your family, friends, colleagues, and on the functional responsibility that you take care. So it definitely added, and I know for sure that uh, I have grown to an extent I wouldn't have imagined the situation that I was in when I was in that negative zone. And
Outstanding.
answering the
And
first part first, so had I started reading maybe a decade earlier, I would have been far more ahead of the situation I was in that time. I would not have burned bridges. I would not have rubbed people on the wrong side, which I did during those times, I remember. But what it also helped me when I changed my behavior, my attitude, my positivity, all those guys who I rubbed on the wrong side that time are very good friends of mine now. Most of them.
oh, that's amazing. And you're missing the biggest benefit of, when you started reading. If you wouldn't have started reading in 2007, 8, you wouldn't have been sitting, having a conversation with me here. See, that's the biggest benefit that you're missing. But good, good. Thank you, audience. Please keep on asking, sharing questions if there are any during the conversation, so that I can pick it up. But Sumit, I'm sure you know that was on a lighter note. I can do that with
I
you,
think you
but
picked up from
I
Kapil
know.
Sharma show, I believe.
Huh? Oh yes, yes, yes. He does it in the beginning. I am doing it towards the mid time, and he also does it with people who've done really well for themselves. So I think that's exactly what I thought of replicating. Now you touched upon a very important dimension on it helped you grow personally, and Harold in his book The Morning Miracle talks about something. We Our growth, and this is the theme. I don't remember the exact one, but he says, we grow to the limit of our professional growth is limited by our personal growth. It just made so much sense to me. It we I was at least conditioned saying that finish your formal education and that's it. Your next 30, 35, 40 years will be taken care of. It is not going to happen. We hate education because it has been enforced upon you. And the reason it worked for me is, or probably Sumit, is we picked it up when we were ready. And now, because it's our own choice of what I learn, what do I do with that learning, when do I learn, and how do I learn, it has the maximum impact on the value that learning can create. So please remember this: your professional growth, and if you're getting stuck in your professional journey, take a pause and think about this: that is your personal growth an inhibitor, or probably the reason why you're not growing? And I told you my experience where I thought I'm a rock star, I've lost my job, doesn't matter, I'm gonna get any job on this planet. I was not able to convert interview conversations because my conversations were very transactional, very functional. There was nothing more about how have I grown as an individual, and that has been a blessing and changed my life. So thank you so much for that, Sumit. Uh, is there something that you do to retain the knowledge from the books? It's a 200, 300 page book that we usually read. Becomes very difficult to remember everything. There are multiple practices people have. What is there something that you do which helps you retain some of the key learnings that you've picked up, or for you it's about you read and it registers? What kind of read to execution person are you?
So there is uh, a saying, and not a saying, there's a experiment that has been done which says that what you read, you are able to retain only 10% of that. And so there are various theories around that. The
I
fact of the
used to
matter.
tell this to my sorry, I used to tell this to my teacher and parents. They never agreed, so I had to finish my school.
So 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 what I did was, I do rather, I still continue doing that, is some of the books like Atomic Habits has this. I love the book, The $1 Trillion Coach, very helpful. The Secret. These books have a summary of what you have read at the end of the chapter. There are some 5, 6 pointers that come in many of the books. So what I do is every couple of months, 3 months, and it doesn't take time. All I do is pick up one of those books, just go through the summary, the pointers that is there. It takes what, half an hour, 45 minutes to read those 7, 8 pages, and it refreshes a lot of things that you would have read maybe 5 months back, 6 months back, 1 year back. So it refreshes. That is one hack that I do. The other is I try and see if what I'm reading, how much I'm able to apply. So if you're reading and applying something, for example, the books that I read, The $1 Trillion Coach or The Drive, or the One Thing, Gary Keller's amazing book. So those things, when you read and you start applying that in your day-to-day behavior or work or on the personal side, I think you are able to retain that naturally, because what you read and when you're applying it helps retaining. Uh, Third thing, tried it, but it doesn't happen all the time. When there is some interesting quote or there is something interesting takeaway from the book, I have my diary around which I just pick up and write. And as and when I get an opportunity, just scroll the pages and read. It gives some memory of what I had read, and I'm able to retain the essence of what the book was all about.
And are you a e-reader kind of a reader mostly, or you're a hard copy, physical,
Hard
tactile kind
copy.
of a? Okay, I I was able to build my habit thanks to Kindle, because technology feels very modern to me. So I picked up Kindle, and it actually helped me build this habit. But I'm mostly a book reader. My Kindle is there with me. I can't read it on a phone. It's just too difficult to read. But I do use Kindle, and what I do something which works really well is, one, of course, in Kindle, as I could mark in the book, I'm able to highlight it, and I can send it. So I send it to myself, any quote, anything that comes across. And when I do my daily journaling, I do think about any key learning that you happen. As Sumit said, that it's important to reinforce, retain it, and if you're able to put it into action, I think it works well. I use a lot of those inspirations in the stories that I share, in the coaching that I do, or when I talk to people. I'm able to connect that. But thank you for sharing that, Sumit. So how is How is it now? What's your practice of reading? How does it work for you? How did you build that, habit for yourself over these years?
So, initially, when I was reading, it was as in when I got hold of a book, I started reading, but it was not a habit per se. So for me, again, morning time is the best time. So I remember I used to spend some 40 odd minutes reading newspapers in the morning. So I had 3 4 newspapers coming in, and I used to read those newspapers. And it was the uh, ET, the Hindustan Times, the Times of India, the Bombay Times, everything. So I used to scroll all the pages on that. So 2 3 years back, what I did was I restricted myself to ET and the sports page of Times of India, and balance time, that 20 25 minutes that I saved from reading those newspaper, I started reading my books. So that 20 25 minutes every day morning is now a ritual, is a habit. So there is not even a single day that goes past where I would not have read my book. It My day doesn't start without reading. So that's slowly steadily that habit got built up. Yes, I at times do my weekend readings, and those are very different kind of books that I do on weekend, more on fictions, that allows me to spend my time not on TV. Though I'm a binge watcher, I love binge watching. So I, just to ensure that I spend some time, so I do some fiction reading, some experimentation in my reading also. So I picked up this book by Stephen Hawkins on theory of everything. So took me back on my school days on the the Big Bang, the black holes. I read that book as an experiment, heavy but very interesting. So that's how
Oh,
my
very
habit
heavy.
is there.
Yeah, very heavy because I picked up the a book by Stephen Hawking, and it took me back to my school days where I could not read. Where I was not reading then also and not here also. It just went over my
No,
head. So
same here. So it's all about physics and things around that. So I had to Google a lot of things while reading that, just to get a sense of what I'm reading. So, but very interesting times. That was my Saturday late afternoon readings.
yes, it's super awesome. And you know what? If I may ask this question, so what very important thing that I pick up from Sumit is you actually had a reading habit. You replaced the content that you were consuming through book. I think that's possibly made the transition easier. And I'm sure we'll talk about how to build habit for people who are keen. Uh, what are the three reasons why you would want people or tell people to start reading books? What do you want to tell them? What do you want to share with the audience or people who are going to watch this video? What three reasons people should read books?
So, Ketan, you can't tell people it reading is something that I personally feel has to come from within. It is something, it is a personal choice. But why it has helped me, it has helped many people that I speak to. The three reasons why somebody should read is, one, it gives you a perspective of of doing something. uh, it gives it opens up your mind. So it gives you a perspective, it opens up your mind, and it helps you absorb some of the aspects which are subconscious, as I was talking about, and you are able to get the validations from those books. So one reason, if you want to grow, you need to open up your mind, you need to open your thought processes, and books helps there. Two, I think it is also a personal coach, as I was telling earlier. You can't go and talk to people for every situation that you get into. It is not easy. You have your inhibitions. At times, you may feel vulnerable. That was, what would the other guy feel if I go and ask these questions? I think use books as your personal coach, and they'll give you direction in your way forward, direction in your thinking process, direction which can take you to multi-level growth in the time to come. So personal coaches are important. Books, I'm not saying they can replace that, but they can definitely support you in your growth story. Three, I think it also helps in your communication. And over a period of time, when you start reading, there are some amazing quotes, there are amazing words, vocabulary. You start learning on that, and both in your spoken as well as written communication in your career, it helps. And we all know how important communication is in your growth. The first impression that the guy gets while interacting with you is how good or poor your communication is. So, reading books can help you enhance your skills around communication, both written and verbal. And that can help you grow multiple times. You may have functional knowledge, you may be expert in your area, domain that you are working in. Add that with your communication, which you can learn through reading, and your growth is fast tracked.
Superman. And if I can take that communication point ahead, and this is again my personal story and how it helped me in social gatherings, because I was not well read or had no perspective. I would avoid meeting people and talking. But the moment I start reading book, if nothing, I will just start talking about books. And it I was able to strike very different level of conversation. My confidence shot up. So that's the dimension of communication that I would like to add. And something very interesting, and Sumit, you've seen Dr. N.S. Rajan, and I've been fortunate to have worked with him. He he gave a very different perspective about reading, why and what he used to do when he used to read. He said, when I read, and he used to read a very wide dimension of concept. He's done a lot of things and he's read a lot of things. He used to say, if I can take a concept from one dimension of, say, I can I use science into human resources, can I use human resources into arts? And he used to spend a lot of time doing that. And he told me that it helped him think very, very differently. It just, suddenly the solution canvas was way bigger and not limited to this is the function, so it has to have a function problem. He said it'll help you think beyond that. So right, he was. And yeah, I thought
Yeah.
I'll add that
Application of
here.
learning in various areas.
Yeah.
Absolutely, Ketan.
Yeah, but unfortunately, that's not what is taught at schools or business schools or even at workplaces. Said, look at a HR solution to this. Look at a credit solution to this. Look at a business solution to this. But yeah, solution can come and should come from any other dimension, because if that problem has existed, somebody has solved for it. Learn from it and implement it. Tony Robbins says success leave clues, right? Find those clues and implement in every dimension. But thank you for that. We are coming closer to ending the session. I don't want to end it off. I'm not sure what the audience right now is thinking about, but uh, what are the you know what will you tell anybody on how should they start their reading journey? I know I met it took me 10 years to start reading my first book. And I'm sure a lot of people suffer through this challenge. This procrastination, saying that I will read when I get time, I will do this when I get time, I will do my certification when I have time, I will invest when I have money. Multiple of these procrastination of putting it to future. Books is one of them. Reading is not a difficult, easy habit to pick up. So, what would you tell people who are like stuck or want to know? What can you tell them to unlock and saying that to start this journey?
Okay. So let me take you to a flashback. This was I was in the same situation where I was procrastinating about my reading. It was I don't have time. I don't think so. It helps. So and in my family, my wife is an avid reader, and she has been reading. most of the time, and she continues doing that. My mom used to be an avid reader. She still at times picks up books and read. Uh, so it happened a long time back. In one of those weekends, we were at this mall, and there was this bookstore called Om Bookstore in Noida. And every time we used to go to the mall, my wife used to pick up some 4 5 books, and she would. So that day, I also decided, let me impress her. Let me also pick up a book and read. So so I picked up something on personality development, or something which was a heavy book. And I remember I picked it up. I don't even remember the name of the book. I don't even remember that I would have ever finished it, because I know I didn't. So I picked that book in the evening on that weekend. I started my book, second page. By the time I realized, I was sleeping. So that's the mistake that I made. That if you want to start reading, read something, and you don't have a habit of reading, so start something which is light, something that can bring you into a mood. And it is very important that reading is also how your mental state of mind is. You can't read heavy books when you are stressed out, or you're doing something which is which where your mind is not around you. And so I that's how simple books like fiction, and I would say, if your area of interest is banking, you can pick any of those Ravi Subramanian books, amazing reads. That's how my reading habit went. You can pick up Khalid Hosseini. I think I am a huge fan of that author. I read all his 3 books, the Kite Runner, The Thousand Splendid Suns, The Mountain Echoed. I think those books were the books that I picked up, and I used to read that in the evening. So again, timing of what type of book you read is also important. So you can't pick up a personality development, management, self changing book on a Saturday evening. So you're killing the mood and the atmosphere around that. That is the time you can pick up a lighter book and start reading, and that's very helpful. Number two, once you're able to read these books, maybe over a period of 3 months, 6 months, that is the time you can pick one of those books that can add value to you. So uh, and what age group you are, or what stage of your career you are, there are books accordingly. Now, I recommended your book, Ketan, to all my colleagues who had started their career, The Extraordinary. So I
Thank you.
remember those 51 hacks that you talk about. It were everything where the mindset of a person who's starting her career. The first thing is how my boss would be, how would I be able to manage my first impression, whether bosses are bad, or that's all inhibitions and the thought processes that the people had. I think your book helped them to a large extent. I spoke to them, and it helped them that those 51 hacks, that it what value you are adding to yourself, that you are able to bring on the table. So again, I read this book of अरे यार, just give me a second. Chandramouli. So, Venkatesh Chandramouli. I read his book Catalyst. I think that is something that you are in your early stage of your career. It
Yeah,
talks
must
about
recommend. Yeah.
what it talks about is how do you spend time and invest in yourself in first half of your career, and how do you it helps in the second half of your career. And I have his other 2 books, Getting Better, and the third book. So I have that's in the pipeline that I need to read. So what I would suggest is that take a time, and that time can be morning, afternoon, evening, whatever you think you are comfortable and you're in that frame of mind, that you just pick up the book and read 10, 20 pages. Build a habit of reading 10, 20 pages. Now let's take 20 pages as an example, Ketan. and there are 365 days in a year. So say 65 days I don't want to read. I'm on a vacation, I'm not in a mood, I whatever reasons, excuses that you can think of, those 65 days I don't want to read. You're left with 300 days. 20 pages in a day, it will take you 20, 25 minutes, 30 minutes in a day. And by the end of the year, you realize that you have read 6,000 pages. And talking about those 300 pages a book average, by the time you realize you have already read 20 books.
Yeah.
So that's simple. So these are simple hacks that I use for myself. This is what I would recommend. Pick up that habit of 10 pages, 15 pages, 20 pages. 10 pages, you realize that you have read 10 books in the by the end of the year. So which is 20 minutes, 30 minutes of your day.
Yeah, thank you. And to the audience, no, no, Sumit is not promoting my book just like that. But thank you so much for that, Sumit. What I gather from Sumit is, time and timing both are important. Okay, timing is about when are you ready to read is something you should identify for yourself. Don't do it when you are maximum stressed, or you probably are in amidst the meeting and you're in a rushed situation. So find that timing for you. I with Sumit, when you have to start something, timing is a very, very important fact. Second is time. Now, what I understand, and this is, let me tell you something that I picked up from the Atomic Habits. Start small, okay? And I have found this kind of a rule for myself when I have to build a new habit. Start with this 5 minute rule. Start for 5 minutes and do it for 5 days. Okay, any new habit that you want to build, just start for 5 minutes and build it for 5 days. What Sumit is saying is build that momentum. And 5 days later, just increase it with by 5 minutes. And then by 5 minutes. So the mistake that we do, and I also do, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to it. So I would get up one day, say, I need to get healthy. And next day, I'm, jogging, walking, running, playing for 2 hours. Amazing. And the next day, it comes down to 1.5 hours, and 3, 4 days, I'm done. I've given up. Because I'm solving the problem the other way around. The body needs time to adjust, the timing, and everything needs time. So, a very important thing I learned from Atomic Habits is start small and keep on building it over time. So, use this reference, time and timing. Second biggest learning that I had, please remember, free time activities never get done. So if you're serious about it, make sure that you carve out time to read. If you think that when I'm free, and nobody's free, I will read, trust me, it is not going to happen. I'm not against a leisure reading. I'm not against saying that you shouldn't have leisure time. But if you're serious about it, please put a specific timing, and please use your calendar. It works. Put it on a calendar, read it, read. Just don't just be in the first page, be stuck there, but start reading, start building that up. But please remember, free times activities do not get done. And thank you for that, Sumit. Guys, if you have any questions, shoot. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap up. I'm going to close up with just one last question from Sumit. So if there are any questions from the audience, type it out. Okay, I don't know if there are questions, no questions, any which ways. Sumit, any closing remarks before we wrap it up in the next 2 minutes?
So I would suggest that it is never too late to start reading. And if you have not started so far, there's nothing that you have missed too much, right? Yes, it is always good to start early for the people who are in very young age and starting their careers, or even otherwise. But if you have not started, it is never too late to start reading. You got lot of time. You can pull that time for yourself, and there are amazing books out there that can keep you busy. One, number two, make you learn a thing or two which will add value to your personal growth. uh, as Ketan said, start small, read a little. um by the time you realize, a habit will get built up. And as I was saying, there are amazing books. I experiment. The question that comes to anybody, I don't know what to read. So that's the dilemma. Most of the people who don't start reading is, I don't know what to read. Experiment. You don't
Yeah.
know. There are some 15 books that I know are back of my chair here, which I started, read for 20 pages, 25 pages. I realized that I'm not getting along with that book. I left it midway and I started something new. The other thing, I always have 6, 7 books in pipeline available, that if I am not able to read right now, I have something else to pick up. If I'm not able to connect with that book, there is a third book that I can pick up. So one mistake that I used to do was that I used to complete the book and then buy another one. By that time, 2, 3 days would have gone, and the habit goes for a toss. So at any given point in time, I have got 5, 6 books which I know are my pipeline books that I need to read. And so these are the few habits that I have built. It helped me. I'm sure it can help most of you on the call, on the session here.
Yeah, and before, thank you for that, Sumit. Dave is asking a question. I can't see it on this screen, but here Dave is asking about uh, how do we build a habit, because every time I wander off. Dev, Sumit and I have spoken about it. Time and timing are both important. Use with 5 minutes, and I am sure it's gonna help you. Otherwise, reach out to us. I'm connected to you. They will help you out, and find an accountability partner if you're finding it very difficult. So just reach out to friends. Say, hey, I'm gonna read for 5 minutes with this particular time. Drop them a message, and every day report to them. It's gonna happen. Which means get a boss for yourself without you choose a boss who's going to hold you accountable. So that's what Dave, I would say. Benifer is saying hi to you, Sumit. Hi Benifer. It's good to see you. So Benifer also shares a similar. We were together at IDFC Bank. Ben, so good to see you here. Nagaraju Pujarappa has a question. Hi Ketan, Sumit. What types of books should I start with if I am below a manager level? So that's the question on the screen, Sumit. If you would like to start.
So, Nagaraju, I would suggest, again, it's not about whether you're a manager or which stage. I believe you are early part of your career. Read this book, The Catalyst, which I spoke about, of Chandramali. Amazing book that will give you a perspective of what you are doing currently. What happens is, the common mistakes the people in the early part of your career, in the career make is, we do something for 6 months, 12 months, and then we say, okay, boss, we are already expert in this, and I need the next level growth. I need this. I have arrived in life. Let me tell you, this book will give you a perspective that you need to do the same thing again and again and again, repeat yourself, because the scenarios and the situations that you are working today may be different, and your application of thoughts would be very different in a different situation. So invest your time in the first part of your career. That's what Chandramali talks about, and it helps you great success in the second part when you need it the most. So that's the book I would recommend. The other book that I would suggest is read the One Thing. It helps you stay focused. So it talks about multitasking to doing one thing. So how do you get mastery out of something? You only get that mastery only when you do something in a flow, when your mind is very clear that this is what I want to do, this is I'm and you're completely into it. It's like a painter or a musician. You can't expect a painter to put a few brushes and move on. When he's in that flow, he's painting and his imagination is completely into it. So this book, The One Thing, helps you get into that flow, the one thing that you need to do, how to prioritize your goals, the bigger goals, the smaller goals. It helps you get a perspective of your life as a whole and a goal that you want to achieve. So these are the two books I would definitely recommend that you should read. There are many, but these two
Yeah,
I would
thank
say.
you. Thank you, Sumit, for that. Just to add my thought here, Nagraju, I'll go back to what Sumit said initially. Find out what stage you are. Do you is your reading practice zero, or you read but you're able to read but not able to select a book? I would want you to take a pause and understand which kind of reader you are. If it is about building habit, go back to the time and the timing constant. Even if it is a comic book, or Sumit said that newspaper was of interest, so he started reading it. Pick reading as a habit first. If you are at the first stage, which is time and timing, build that habit where you're able to commit a time to yourself, and you make sure it happens. Now, once you have reached there, another point that Sumit also said, and which I also believe is, unless until you read, you would not know. Okay, so like I have realized that I've started to enjoy autobiographies and a lot of self-help book, which is about personal growth. That's what I've realized. And a very important thing I'll tell you, I was when I was growing up, I was said that told that when you read a book, finish it. And I, for last 2 3 years, if I don't get the traction in the first few days of reading, a few hours, where I don't feel a connect, I actually park it aside. I don't get stuck to saying that it is my moral commitment to finish a book. No. So experiment, try, recalibrate, move fast. The You will realize that there are certain books that you find find a lot of connection to, because they're helping you validate some theories, some questions that you have, and you start finding your answers. So part one, if you are to build a habit, time and timing, and if you have overcome that, read whatever, ask few people in your network or people that you look upon to pick up the name, start reading it, and you will gradually start to filter out, and you'll see a trend which is coming up. And thank you so much for asking that question. Uh, and I'll wrap it up with just 2 points from my side. My when my reading, my experiment with book is, this is what it did to me. I changed the way I started to look at the world, changed, and so did my results. This is, Sumit spoke about behavior or belief changing, thought or belief changing your behavior. That's exactly books do. And I'll just reiterate one point. Having worked in the corporate setup for some time, one thing that I've realized is, we are not told or encouraged to take care of ourselves. Take charge of your career, take charge of your learning, take charge of becoming what you want. And learning and growing is a very integral part of it. So please do not over depend upon your bosses, your manager, your human resources, your organization to do everything for you. You did not come on this planet to work in an organization where somebody else is going to decide what happens to your career. They're great organizations, they're doing what they're supposed to do. But you have to have a point of view and need to take ownership of what you want to do that. With that, thank you so much. I am coming back on 5th of March, and this time I have another interesting speaker. The speaker is a Forbes acclaimed coach when it comes to manifestation and power of meditation and goals. It'll be very interesting, as interesting as this one. So I will send a note on that in a day or two. That's 5th of March. But Sumit, thank you so much for your time. To the audience, thank you so much for your time. Hope this helped. Do share in the comment box on do you want me to what more do you want to hear about. I will do my best to get people. There are a lot of people who have done a lot of great things. I'm just trying to get them together for a conversation so that we can learn together. So have a phenomenal weekend, and bye bye.
Bye, Ketan. Thank you for having me here. It was an exciting session. Look forward for your next ones.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Thank you.